Hello, hello, beloved USU listeners. I am grinning from ear to ear. Seriously, I've talked about this before. My cheeks are already hurting. That is an amazing sign. You guys are in for a ridiculously amazing treat. I'm so excited about today's guest, and you'll see why. If you're watching this, then you will get the full effect. If you're listening, we're just happy to have you here. So, today's guest, I'm so thrilled to have Larry Brown Jr. Larry Brown Jr. is the National Director of the NAACP's ACT-SO, a National Achievement Program, and I may have said that wrong, ACT-SO, we'll go to that, serving approximately 10,000 African-American high school students across the country in STEM, business, humanities, performing arts, visual arts, and culinary arts. So awesome. Prior to ACT-SO, Larry was a communications professional specializing in digital media marketing, advocacy, and television production. During that time, he won a local Emmy Award in the National Capital Region. When he's not advocating for justice in youth, Larry loves to take on projects to feed his core as a community volunteer and consummate creative. He also loves to paint and to cook, and you definitely want to check out his hashtag #EatWithLBJ. Larry is a proud native Detroiter and alumnus of Howard University. He is married to his wife, Candice, for 7 years. They are proud parents of their beautiful children, Greyson and Elle. And Larry and I actually were co-hosts for a very short period of time for DC TV's show, The District Life. And that is where I met Larry and felt like I found a soul brother, soul friend, somebody that I feel like I've known my whole life. Larry, I'm so excited to have you here, my friend. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you so much, Julie, for having me here. I am honored to be here, and of course sad that we're not face-to-face with each other so we can hug and I can share some of my warmth that I would share with you if we were in studio, but it's great to be here. Thank you so much for the invitation, and to all of your viewers, thank you so much for having me.
You're the best. Yeah, I just have to say for those, this is kind of like, Larry, you're one of my favorite roles with you. We, get really freezing in studio, and literally Britt Jones, who we love, who is the third musketeer, we would like come as close, because Larry, you're what? Are you 6'2"? You're not,
Yeah,
you're
I'm just
not.
shy. In my mind, I'm 6'3", but I'm just shy of 6'2", if I'm being honest.
All right.
In my mind, though,
You're
if you ask me, I'm 6'3".
Okay, 6'3". You're not like pint size, so like oh my God, I would just go like next to you, and I would be like, just stay right here, do not move,
I was a
and the
full
camera
blanket.
loves.
Full blanket for you and for Britt while we were doing that. Interesting story though, like we got connected because we started working together, right, for the show, but our journey started, if you think about it, during our audition process.
Oh yes.
It started during our, and I don't know if you know this or not, but when it was either for my callback or for my initial screen test. I think it was for my callback. I saw you come in. You did like a different audition or something. They brought you in. I was leaving my callback, and I think you were coming in to do your callback because you had maybe a digital screen test, and they were taking your photograph for like the chopping board, and I was like, she's just taking her picture for the chopping board. I did mine last week. How is this working when we're already on callbacks? And so I was kind of looking like, who does she think she is coming in here late? But then I learned what happened, and so shout out to you, because then we ended up having our final callback together. We had our initial callback together. Yeah. And we had that together, and we actually sat next to each other on set auditioning, and then we ended up being cast for the part. So it was meant to be, and here we are, quarantined together as we are in our separate residences.
Oh my God.
Making it through this global pandemic.
Oh, we are making it through, Larry. I mean, who would have thought, a little sadness about that show being either paused or whatever it's doing. We're not sure.
We'll say it's on hiatus. It's on hiatus.
It's in a hiatus because we were really showcasing like all that's going on in DC, these amazing stories and really the best of the best. And I mean, first of all, I just remember I learned a lot about different food options in DC. You are so well known and well versed in the DC deliciousness. And like right now, it's not really happening so much. It's just nuts.
Yeah. It's not really happening so much. And so what we've seen during this time, we've seen a lot of our food vendors in one of the most honorable ways lean into this time. Those who are able from a financial standpoint and from a staffing standpoint, lean in and really show up in the communities in which they are in which they were erected, that they're representing, right? We have people who are actually making food for first responders or making food for hospital workers, taking it to them, delivering the food, whether it be purchased from a person who's a local caterer, that's a licensed caterer, of course, or whether it be them cooking it in their kitchens. We've had people lean in and really show up in ways that they've never shown up before during this time. And I think it's important for us to pay attention as we look forward beyond COVID-19 and what life will be. Take note of the people who showed up during this time. Not just show up to serve your local community, but show up from a place of service to others.
I love that. I love what you just said. No, it's really true. There's been such an outpour. When I think of what you were talking about, it's like just being in your heart and giving at a different level, and just to take note of those beings, those people that have been doing that, and especially in ways that, go above and beyond and make it possible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I'm remembering, it's interesting. I totally, you're right. We sat next to each other. Like, we actually were cast exactly in the same sitting position as where we were in our audition. It was just Britt was brought in for the right hand. So.
Yep.
And
so was I sitting? I'm sorry, you were sitting. We were swapped around for a few times when we swapped.
Oh yeah, that's right.
But when we initially started, was I on the end and then you were in the middle? Or was I in the middle and you were on?
You were in the middle, I think.
That's right.
Because I was like, oh no,
was to my right and you were to my left. Yes. That's what it was. Yeah.
Because I was worried about the shoe I was wearing. Like, it didn't look right. And I'm like, they're not even filming.
Like, you're going to be fine.
You're not looking at your shoe. They're not. Yeah. I was like, okay, that doesn't really matter with the callback anyhow. If it's upon my shoe and I'm like, that shouldn't get in the way. So yeah, and I remember thinking, it's funny. I remember thinking like, oh, I just love, like, there's a natural, charisma, chemistry. Like, I loved talking to you. And I remember thinking, oh, that would be fun. And then we showed up. Yeah, no, it was like natural. I felt that. I don't know if you did. But.
No, so I did feel it. I think I told you that. So when we had our initial team meeting, our first cast meeting, or cast and crew meeting.
Yeah.
I kept saying to myself, I think that we were in the callback together. And I said, we were in the callback together. You were like, we were. Oh my goodness. I was like, yes. Like, we had so much fun. I was like, I regurgitated your entire story to you. Like,
oh yeah,
everything you shared for the audition and like the way we went through our prompt reads and the table move. I brought it all back to your remembrance, and you remembered that. So I totally felt the chemistry, felt the natural rhythm, and felt good vibes from you. And you have on my favorite piece of jewelry that you own that I know that I've seen, and that's the Phoenix. I love seeing the Phoenix whenever you have that on. So thank you so much for wearing that. You didn't even know that I was looking forward to seeing it, and you wore it.
I work for you, Larry. I work for
you.
I knew. I was like, he likes the Phoenix. We're talking today. This is like, I haven't seen you. It's been so sad. I've like missed our show. What is going on? And one of the things I remember in the audition is I always love to tell stories. Have you share your stories about. When you read your bio, Larry, like, it is hyper impressive and you've done so much. You've gotten an Emmy, for goodness sake. Like, but I think it's important for people to know, like, there's been, dips and turns along the way, and just getting to this place. I remember the story about your dad, or it doesn't have to be that story, but maybe just sharing kind of some of what you've struggled with, because I think it's easy to be like, you have a lot of impressive things you've done and do.
Sure. So for me, my story is, I like to say I come from the best of both worlds. Growing up, I was able to see so much growing up in the fair city of Detroit, not the mean streets as some people like to think, but in the fair city of Detroit, I was able to experience so much by way of my family. My mom and my dad come from two totally different backgrounds. They truly are a North and the South Pole that attracted and came together. I was the firstborn, so shout out to my sister who was the secondborn, but I was the first product of my mom and my dad. And I say the best of both worlds because I got a chance to see what two different upbringings look like when it comes together with my mom and my dad. Of course, not just with those individuals, but those individuals bring along that baggage with them. And that baggage, we look at baggage as a negative thing, but baggage is also a good thing. If you're traveling, if you're going out of the country, or if you're just going for a day trip, you need some kind of baggage to take with you. If you're not going with anything, not even a purse or a pocketbook for the women, you might be ill prepared for said trip. So you need a little baggage when you go someplace. And so those my parents brought their baggage, which is their families and things like that, into the picture. And that also made me who I am, created me, it helped raise me up. And so in that, I was able to experience different things from both sides of my families that had positive and negative effects on me, in addition to understanding what service to the world is and what service to humanity is. Also, I was able to take a look and see that, although I have access to certain things as this young Black child growing up in this urban city, I know I should be made aware of the fact that there are people who are like me, who look like me, who may not have what I have. And so I owe something to them in a place I owe gratitude, right? To say thank you for what I have and what I am doing, but I also need to pay that forward somehow in some way. And so I learned what giving back is. I learned benevolence. I learned volunteerism. I learned to be able to pour into some younger person so that they will be a conduit for some kind of change that you hope to see in the future. So those are the kinds of things that help make me who I am today. It's not life, like Langston Hughes said, life for me ain't been no crystal stair. And that's a poem, if you're looking for that reference there, look that up by Langston Hughes to all your viewers. But it's one of those things where I'm not ashamed of where I've been. I'm excited about where I'm going. And I look at those little notches on the pole of my life to as really moments set up a memorial to say, hey, you've come from this, or you've made it through this. Use that as learning lessons and fuel for your future to propel you into something new and something great. And so that's how I'm able to do the work that I do. That's also how I'm able to have conversations and know who I am. One of the toughest lessons that I've had to learn in all of this, dealing with various issues with my, dealing with a divorce with your parents at an early age, I should say at an early age, but, in early ages and early, even for some adults whose parents get divorced while they are adults, it means something to them, right? So dealing with a divorce, dealing with addictions, addiction to alcohol, addiction to food, addiction to whatever downfall, whatever bump in the road I might have experienced with myself or with my family, that's caused me to really look at myself and strive to be the meest me that I could be, right? Has anybody ever said that on the show?
Yeah, I love it. You just picked it up. I'm like, yep, that's perfect. You're awesome.
So for me to be the meest me, my goal even today is to strive to be the same person that I am at home, that I am in the office, that I am on set, that I am in conversations, that I am in the supermarket wearing a mask, if I'm pumping gas we have to do that now, right? So wherever I am, even if I'm in disguise, right, I need to be the meest me. And so I need to figure out, how do I bring Larry Brown Jr. to the table in every situation of my life, when it comes to me being a husband, to being a father, to being a team leader? How do I bring that same person to each one of those facets of my life? And so I learned growing up that I couldn't be the same person, because I had it down pat, right? Like, especially when you're in high school or an emerging adolescent. So if you're in that prepubescent phase and through middle school and high school, you figure out, oh, I'll act like this for the teacher. Good morning, Mr. Smith. Good morning, Miss Johnson. How are you? How are your children? How's the dog? Versus when I go home, yes, Mom and Dad, school was great. But then, nowadays you can be on the phone and send all kinds of tearing down tweets and text messages to people and be terrible. So I also had a problem with my mouth. I was an overweight child. So I got the fat jokes all the time. So at an early age, I learned that my mouth could be a weapon. So I had to unpack that, figure out how I could really purpose in my mind not to find something that was so deep and dark and hurtful to people, to dig in on that and really figure out how to elevate myself to say, they don't have the words to say what they are trying to say. They don't have a better way of expressing themselves. So how then can you be that person that rises above and makes them then reach up to come to where you are? And thus how I've really strived to be the same person in all of the things that I am involved in. So you will catch me being a quirky person. You will catch me being an energetic person, a creative person. I might be quiet because Larry is as extroverted as I am. I love to be introverted. I like to sit on the outside, on the outskirts, on the outline, and literally look like Big Brother and just watch and observe people, right? I love doing that too. So I try to bring all of that wherever I go. And I look for spaces that allow me to be the me-est me that I can be as I share with the You-est you audience.
Oh my God, I love you. I love what you said. I think part of it is that congruence, that I'm going to be congruent with who I am, my essence, no matter where I am. And I love that you, first of all, you have such good words. I'm like, you just keep talking. I love listening to you. You've got the words. You've got the words. But, you know, it's like to be that same person, no matter where you are, is really, I think a lot of people, you know, and I've been there where you get, when you were saying how you were, when we start to lose kind of that sense of self and trust with ourselves, because I'm one way here, I'm one way there, it's like confusing. It's a lot of energy. And that is something I've noticed with you, just the time on set, off set, with like what, listening to you talk to Candice, just you're like, you're always freaking hilarious. That like you're witty, but like it didn't matter. It was always Larry Brown Jr. No matter where we were, you know, you have that. I think it's a great tip. Yeah, I love that. I love that reminder, like just, and it sounds like with your upbringing, so you had two very different worlds and navigating that, I would imagine, did you find that you would, you know, like feel connected to one world more than the other, or are you still close with both worlds, both parents? Like how did that end up shaping you, do you think?
Sure. So interestingly enough, once my parents, so let me take a step back. Once my parents were married for 13 years, they separated and they divorced. They separated when I was in the 8th grade, and
Wow.
then the divorce was final when I was in the 9th grade. So you have me
Yeah.
now, who have been in private school all my little life, you know, in small class settings, wearing a uniform since, you know, preschool. I was in private school. Now going into a school of choice in the city of Detroit. And, you know, it's a school where you had to test into it, but it was a public school. So you had me adjusting from private school to public school. Now I was on public transportation, engaging to go to public school. So there's also like this going on, like this whole culture shock in my head, having been dropped off at school and going to before school care and after school care and things like that within the same campus, right? Now taking a bus to downtown Detroit to go to school, you know, with people whom I've not grown up with. And I'm going to school with people who come from a neighborhood middle schools and elementary schools to really come to this high school together and make a better life for themselves, but also they have connections with each other. So now I'm networking with a whole new group of people that I've not known before, where there were maybe like 3 or 4 people from my middle school who went to that high school with me, but we went in different directions because it was a college prep school. So we had majors and we were on different tracks. And so I had to make new friends. And so with that, my mom and dad separated. So I've got divorce going on at home. You know, we were moving out of our family home and with my grandmother temporarily, going on the bus in the morning. This whole culture shock of education and socialization, for me, it was a lot to handle. And so I just tried to find ways and outlets to be myself. What did that look like? That looked like me trying to lean in and be who I wanted to be, regardless of who my mom and my dad desired for me to be. So I'm also fighting against that. And so all of that to say that we look, you know, some 21 years ago now to present day. And I'm able to have a relationship with my mom and my dad where I feel like I am their child, I'm their adult child. We've grown in tremendous ways, so much so that our family during this time, my dad's family, began hosting weekly, not bi-weekly, not monthly, but weekly. And I voted against this, mind you, but weekly Zoom calls to engage the family. And so this is with my dad, with my side of the family, where you know, my mom divorced my dad, but she also divorced, you know, you divorce the family if you divorce someone. So
Yeah.
my mom now is showing up, my mom from day one showing up on these calls with my family, with my dad. We're all there, and you know, we're all in different parts of the country, this family, my family, and we're coming together on this call to this Zoom hangout to really see each other and share, break bread and love on each other and celebrate and catch up. And it's really good because, you know, years ago, it would not have been that kind of story for my part of the branch of that family, because there was so much breakdown that needed to be healed. And over time, it's interesting how God works things out, because although my family, my mom, my dad, my sister, and my niece, they're all in Detroit. I'm here in Maryland. And the way that things turned out, I left Detroit to come to college, to go to college here in, well, down the road in DC. And after finishing school, well, while I was in school, my mom began repairing, my sister began repairing a relationship with my dad and his family, which thus brought my mom into that, right? Because my sister was still a minor living in the house. So of course she can talk to mom about anything. And so mom is listening in and talking and sharing. Thus a healing process that needs to happen with me removed from it, because I had my own situation that needed healing and needed to be working, that I needed to work through. And so I was able to do that separate and apart from them here in the DC area. He did the healing, did the work with my dad. We became one again. And that was back in, you know, the early 2000s. So here we are some 20 years later, able to break bread virtually and like, hey, mom, hey, dad, happy Father's Day, happy Mother's Day. And then see them wish it to each other. That would have never happened. So, you know, time and space allows for so much when we are present and we are intentional about that. And really, you know, reminding ourselves to show up and seek the intention that you are seeking. If you seek to have drama continue on, then by golly, you will have drama that will carry you forward, but it will not carry you through. And so the healing and the forgiveness, those are things that were always in the forefront of our intentions as individuals. And so as a family, we're able to do that as our immediate family, right? The four people I grew up with in the house, and thus project and emanate that healing to our family, to show that. And it's so strange because in all of that, my dad has several siblings who have several children. Every single week, our foursome of our branch of the family were the folks that showed up every week for the whole call, the entire duration of us doing the call. And so for me, I felt joy and victory and really peace internally, because that was a reflection that I had when I look back after all that was said and done. So that's where we are today. And like I said, it took time and it took healing and understanding. And we made it through. We made it through.
That is such a beautiful story. That is so beautiful. And I think it's like a reflection of what's possible. And I'm thinking about, you know, the work that you're doing. I mean, the healing that's possible in your microcosm of your family unit, where there was dissension, where they, you know, your parents probably wouldn't be on the same call together. And then to have it where you guys are together every week. I know I got you. Like that's amazing. That's miraculous. And you know, my head goes to like the times that we're in now, and how can we take this and emulate and start building healing? And I think I'd love to hear your thoughts. Like, to me, I love the work that you're doing right now. I think I said it wrong. It's Act So with the NAACP. I was like ACTSO. I'm like, that's Act So. That was embarrassing, but
like
that's okay.
CAR. Oh, that's car. I got it.
I'm like, I think that you know, when you get a lot of letters and I'm like, oh, nope, that's actually the word. Just say the word act. So, but and you kind of, well, you had alluded before that working with youth and being somebody that grew up where, whether it was being teased for your size or just, you know, that working with the youth and around justice is so important to you. And just curious, about the work you've been doing recently with the youth, and then to hear more about what you're, you know, what you've been doing in the community and how we can learn from you.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So I am so fortunate to lead a program with the NAACP called ACTSO. It stands for the Afro Academic, Cultural, Technological, and Scientific Olympics.
Woo!
Did I say it too fast? I saw you writing. You want me to say it again? I'll slow down.
Yeah,
It's the Afro-Academic, Cultural, Technological, and Scientific Olympics. So that's why we call it
okay.
APSO.
Oh, got it.
Essentially, I have the opportunity for the duration of a school year to lead a program with about 10,000 students across the country. And these are 10,000 African American high school students that have been that have decided they want to go above and beyond the regular course study that they're receiving in their local schools, and really want to parlay their way into something else for their future, right? So we've got these 6 categories that you described in the beginning when you were introducing me in business and humanities, performing arts, culinary arts, and STEM, as well as humanities. Those are our 6 categories. But students have 33 different ways that they can connect with us. So under those 6 categories, we have 33 fields of study where we provide a free coach and a free mentor all school year long to these students to help them figure out a way forward.
Wow.
What does that mean? They come to us at the top of the school year and say, hey, I am interested in this. If you could come to us and be interested in up to 3 things. So we have students that dance. We have students so we have some students that are ballerinas who also happen to be an engineer, a rising engineer, who also happen to be an amazing storyteller. And so these students come to us and say, I want to do all 3. We say, we'll take you. We'll get you some ballet. We'll enhance what you're doing currently with your ballet teacher. We also will help you develop a project and a presentation that you can put together that is focused on engineering. We will also partner you not just with your school teacher, but we have some local engineers that look like you that have decided that they want to go above and beyond their call of duty and their profession and volunteer time to assist you through all of this time to help you develop a project that you might have a chance of winning a college scholarship for at the end of this process when it's all said and done. And so we're navigating all these children through this process in hopes of getting them a college scholarship, but also putting them in a pipeline so they can begin to populate the workforce with the amazing creative things that they have inside of them to pour out and make this world a better place. And so that is the program in which I'm able to lead. We have so many different partners corporately and foundation-wise that pour in and support us, of course, because it looks great, it feels good, and because it supports the children. But more importantly, they believe in doing this work, right? They want to make sure that they are supporting talent development and leadership development. And so that's what we provide for our students as well. We've had to pivot what we do with our program, of course, in the face of this global pandemic that we are all living through. And so a few months ago, we decided to take our program digital. And so what did that look like? That looked like a lot of conversations that we're having now over Zoom or over Google Meet or via Skype or FaceTime. Our students leaned in and they began turning up the volume, turning up the heat rather, with their coach or their mentor, and some of them stuck with it. So much so that later this month, really in August, we're going to host our national competition virtually. So we've had about 100 units across the country to be able to lift up their local AXO competition. So towards the end of the school year, our students will compete against each other. So say, for instance, if you're in Washington, D.C., and you're in Northwest D.C., and you go to, and there might be the Southwest D.C., or there might be someone who lives in Laurel, Maryland, which is just up the road, for those of you who aren't familiar with the D.C., Maryland area, and you are competing essentially to represent your city. You compete to be the best in your city. The best of every city comes together at the national competition, and then you compete to be the nation's best. And so in just a few weeks, typically we have upwards of like 750 students. We've lost half of our students nationally because of the pandemic and some of the programs didn't continue. But for those that did, we have 350 students that are coming, representing about 100 units across the country, to compete virtually for these scholarships, for iPads, for all kinds of prizes that they will win and be added to the national roster of AXO alumni. Now, I'll tell you, Julie, these students are going to be joining a list of notable alum, of notable and not so notable alum, if you will, because I was a part of the program when I was in high school.
Really?
Yes, you guys are just now meeting me, so you wouldn't know my name, but you might know a name of like Anthony Anderson from ABC's Blackish, Lauryn Hill, R&B hip hop artist.
Lauryn Hill?
Lauryn Hill was part of the program. Jada Pinkett Smith was part of the program.
Oh my gosh.
Kanye West, surprisingly, was a part of our program, as well as Michelle Williams from Destiny's Child, the late filmmaker. John Singleton actually was part of the AXO program, and he didn't win either. Anthony Anderson did not win. But look at what these people have contributed to society, to the social fabric and the culture of our world today. We have all of these tastemakers and influencers. Alicia Keys was a part of our program out of New York. So these are the kinds of people that we are producing in the world today. And these students will be added to that roster of participants once we complete our national competition round. So it's been amazing. And I love this work so much so because it's so needed, especially during this time when we have so much unrest in our country.
Yes.
Especially during this time where we are really sending a message, and not just uplifting a movement, but we are sending a message and really an affirmation that Black lives do matter. And we hope that everyone affirms that Black lives matter. Yes, we understand and know that all lives matter, but in a place in this country that was built for free labor by Africans that were brought here and enslaved against their will, people that were kidnapped from their home and made to take a voyage across rough water, some whom did not make it. But those who did make it, I am proud to say I'm a descendant of a person or people who were brought to this country against their will, who built this country, but were never given the proper thanks. We're never even acknowledged in the beginning as a whole, as an entire, complete human being, right? We are amplifying that message to say that these kinds of lives matter, because let's not forget, this country was built not to acknowledge us in this process, right? So we want to make sure that we continue to amplify not just that message of Black Lives Matter, but let's show you why these lives matter. And I sit in a seat from a place of being able to promote these youth who are our future, just like every other non-Black child is our future. But we also want to send the message to them that we see you, we hear you, we know that there are problems in the world today, and you don't just have the answer, but you are the answer to that problem today. And so that's why the work that I do professionally really helps to undergird, my sanity and also my belief system in what I'm able to champion.
Woo! It's bringing tears to my eyes, because what you're doing is, it is the future. Honestly, it is the future to have. It's just first of all, I didn't realize I have a girl crush on Lauryn Hill and Alicia Keys. And I'm like, hold on, let me just take that in. But it's so needed. I'm even thinking,
it's all good.
I'm just thinking, for those of us, I've always, just what I've known about the NAACP, I've been so amazed. I worked with you might even know him, and I'm forgetting his last name, but someone in the Baltimore area. I had done some health coaching and working with him, and his work has been incredible. And I'm thinking, for those of us listening, here I am listening, and I'm like, how can I, and this is one of the things I wanted to ask you and reach out about, is how can I, here I am, this white middle-aged girl. I don't feel middle-aged, by the way, at all, but that's okay.
You're millennial. You're millennial.
Yeah, I'm
You're
a millennial. Take that back. Whatevs. I'm a millennial. Hashtag.
LOL.
LOL. Exactly. But I think it's an important question, how to be not just an ally, but how to support. I mean, I'm thinking, okay, can I donate to ACT? So can I, what can I do? What can people listen? How can we start creating healing and change? What are, and really open to, and how can apologizing, it's not even just apologizing to me. It's what can I do now? And what can I do to change the future? And I believe, not to sound like, oh my God, I'm dating myself. I believe Whitney Houston, even the children of our future. But
I know Whitney Houston.
I'm a little obsessed with, I still love her. I still listen to her. By the way, they did a remake of Higher Love with her and Kygo, but that's a whole different conversation.
Oh,
did you know that?
Okay. I did not know that.
Every day. Yeah, I'm like, how did Whitney get back on here? I'm like, she sang it obviously before, but I listen every day. Higher Love. Her version and Steve Winwood, because I think that's what we need, is a higher love in our world. But my brain is what can I do? What can people listening? What can we do? White, everybody, but especially to honor Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter. I didn't say the right verb.
It's all good. So I think that I appreciate that you are interested in asking that question, right? How can I support? What can I do? What do you want me to do? And that opens the door, right?
Yeah.
And so many of us have not been asked that question. So when you do ask us that question, we
Right.
sit and we're taken aback and we're just like, oh, wow, what you're asking? And so you might encounter people, for those that are watching that are interested in asking this question, which I hope that you would, you might encounter people that may not know what to
Yeah.
say to you. So it's important to understand that Black Lives Matter, as I said, is really an affirmation. And so affirm them first. You know, and affirming from a place of honesty and not from patronizing the person, but really sincerely affirming a person. And that sometimes takes relationship. It goes deeper than the surface of like, hey, what's up? What do you do? Where do you live? How did you get here? What are you doing? You know, beyond that, and really leaning in to know the person really will help you affirm that person. Also, it's important to take action. That action comes in so many different ways. Julie, you mentioned donating. Yes, we accept donations for AXO, and the NAACP accepts donations. But after that donation, how then can that donation go into further action? Because yes, that is an action to point and click and enter, and you know, Apple Pay or whatever. If I don't know anything outside of Apple, so sorry for those of you.
No. I'm like, mine doesn't work, but whatever.
Venmo,
so whatever. Yeah, but like,
we'll
what
call
else?
it like Droid Pay. But you can take that action, right? It's important to take that action beyond just the donation. So once you've made the donation, you know, see how then can you do more. So maybe it's becoming a member. You might not want to join the NAACP, but you might want to join the National Urban League. You might want to join the National Action Network. You might want to join Color of Change, or you may want to join all and hold a membership there. And by joining, that means you are affirming yourself to say, I stand parallel. I stand with you in this. Excuse me.
Love it.
I'm going to be on the front line with you in this fight. And so that then opens the door for communication to take place, not just between you and that person, but between you and the organization. So that way you can, one, get the updates to figure out what's going on, and then plug into your local community to figure out how you can begin to help, right? Because yes, it helps to have these kind of conversations, but the affirmation is nothing without that action. And the action is what's going to be what takes for us to literally brick by brick by brick, dismantle the system that's been built against us and truly seek equality. And that's what we all need, is true and real and authentic equality. So those are two things, 2 A's, affirmation and action.
I love it. I love it. I'm so with you. And I want to make sure I'll get all the links to put down, because I'm like, I don't know how you do this, but I'll become a member of all of them. Like and I love what you said. It's lovely to donate. That is one thing you can do. But I agree, like being a member, being a part of the community, so I can get that. So anyone listening, you can get updates, you can be part of it. And here's the thing. I mean, it might be brick by brick. But I do believe in that compound effect. You know, we just start with a few bricks, and then that to me can make a huge change. I don't know when that happens. I know the butterfly effect. I'm just hoping each of us listening, this is why this is so important to me, because I'm a brick. Well, I help with the bringing down a brick. We all do that. And
absolutely, we
all can do something. I just, I am so with you. I'll make sure to get all the names and links, because I really want everyone listening to have access. And I'm going to, I don't tell people what to do, but I'm going to urge you and invite you, UST listeners, like join, become a member, donate, maybe become a member, choose one, choose all, choose the ones, any of them that speak to you, but do something. So as you said, Larry, I love that. I never heard of that. The affirmation, that makes sense. Black Lives Matter is an affirmation.
It's an affirmation. It really is an affirmation.
Yes.
And it's something that, I was raised in Detroit, and I'll say this to you also, I'll make sure that you get the links, of course. And then I also wanted to say to you that, it's so important that we stand together in all of this. And I'll fast forward to what I was about to say. Just as we are doing all of this, I was raised in a town where I grew up around successful Black people, literally my entire network. So, people who worked and made successful lives working in the automotive industry. Of course, in Detroit, you have people who worked for Chrysler, Ford, Chrysler, and GM. Those were the big three, right? And so I knew so many people that worked for the big three, but I knew people who worked at all levels of the big three. So you had the people who worked on the assembly line. I knew people who worked, my godmother, my cousin, she is one of the lead nurses for Ford Motor Company at their headquarters. And so she is, medically the top of the chain there at that company. up to executives. I know African-American executives that work for General Motors, Ford Motor Company, Daimler Chrysler, and so forth. But I also was around people who, you know, I was around people who were doctors and lawyers and judges that said, we voted for these people. You know, I worked campaigns as a child before I was able to vote. I would work campaigns with folks that went to our church that were running for office, whether it be city council or for a judge seat. So I saw this growing up. And so coming out of that microcosm of Detroit, of seeing successful Black people, and knowing, though, at the same time that that was knowing at the same time there was also like injustice against my people.
Yeah.
I was taught Black Lives Matter before Black lives were mattering, you know, for the sake of a hashtag,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
so I think that that's the important part that I'm uplifting, is that it's important for us to instill in the children, as you believe the children are our future, as Whitney's saying, we've got to instill in the children that sense of pride, so that they walk through this place understanding, hold your head up, hold your head high. Before your people came here, you know, you come from a royal lineage of people who were ripped apart for the sake of greed and for the sake of an economy that doesn't care about you. And so know that as you navigate through this space, that will give you a confidence that you've never had before. And so I think that part of the action is all in the affirmation that we're doing. You can take the affirmation, plug it into the action by speaking life into the people that are so oppressed in this country.
Yeah. Ooh. Woo. I'm like hot. No, it's just really intense. I love what you said. That is like my heart is with you. I love, I'm so with you. For me, it's always been like, what is the action? Because it's been so upsetting to the last few months. I mean, and frankly, what's been upsetting for me is to realize, not that I've been asleep at the wheel, but it didn't wake me up until I woke up the last 2 months. It's not that I didn't see, I think I didn't get it until I got it. Right. And I mean, just with what's happened with George Floyd, I watched 13 with my kids, with my husband. And I got to tell you, and as somebody who's like, always felt like I'm on a mission for higher love, right? Like I saw that, I was like, oh, heck no, this is not happening under my watch while I'm alive. No, this is not, I'm not okay. And whatever part that I've contributed by not being as engaged or not realizing or not being awake, it's like, you know, I can't change the past, but I can change now, and I can change how I'm helping to really like a living amends / like standing as one. And to me, I mean, I do living amends in all parts of my life. And I'm like, okay, like it is crucial. So I think the action, like you're saying, the affirmation and then the action, it is crucial. That actually could be applied, frankly, to anything you want to affirm and change. But
Absolutely.
I just, thank you. This has been really, really illuminating and helpful. And just, you're such like you're witty. I was going to ask you to sing like you. Larry's an amazing cook. I mean, I don't know what you don't do, but you are just like a chariot of light. No, really, like
thank you.
I had a sense of what you did, but listening to you. And then by the way, you guys, like on camera, witty, like just unbelievable ability to quip and to speak. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna let him talk, because you're so knowledgeable. But seriously, you're such I think of you as just a real light worker, Larry. And I am grateful just to be in the orbit with you and to share your light and what you're doing. And we'll have links. And is there any last minute, I call them heart flares, where like your heart's like, I need to say this. Anything that I didn't ask you that's right there in your heart that you wanted to say before we wrap?
Sure. Thank you again for this opportunity, Julie, and for all of your kind words and sentiments. I receive them. And I thank you for being who you are. I met you being the You-est you. And I love the way that you are able to really just operate as a vessel. And there are so many things that you do and that you say that I don't know that you are actually conscious of the fact that this is what you are doing, because it's actually falling on people and they are recipients of what you're sharing. but it's speaking to something personal that they have going on. So continue availing yourself to feel the vibration and the positivity that you have and you feel day by day, so that you continue to be that vessel of sharing and positivity that you are for so many people that tune in to see you via this platform, and to those that you share with face-to-face and electronically. Continue to do that, because that is what's needed, not just in this world, but in everyday life. It is needed. So thank you for that. Heart flare for me, I would say, listen, if you hear or engage with people who have opposing views to what is clear right now. And listen, we are literally staring the word humanity in its face. Really encourage them to lean into humanity and seek the most simplified definition of humanity possible to get them to understand and to see. And just, Julie, as you move and you are a vessel able to share with people, I see that it's planting seeds, and one will plant, one may come to water, and, ultimately God gives us growth. And so plant the seed with someone, or water their humanity as you are moving through this time. Because there's some people that don't choose to see that. And it might be in your regular conversations where someone's completely closed off to something, whether when it comes to, Black Lives Matter or any of the other issues. My wife was on a call with her coworkers and her team. And my wife works in a federal government agency, and she is she's a manager within the government. So she manages teams of people and so forth and some other things. And so all of that to say, because they've been meeting virtually, you're able to see folks as if you're sitting in the conference room. And one of her white counterparts was reacting to a training that they had just the other day, and it was a racial sensitivity training. And the director of the unit said, hey, listen, this racial sensitivity training is coming out, and I advise all of you to take it. Non-Black colleague is on the Zoom or on the Microsoft team meeting and gives a full blatant eye roll and kind of like straightens up when he realizes, oh shucks, I'm on camera. Well, the Black people saw it. And so what does that mean for them when they see someone roll their eyes when there is a clear call to action, right, for people to take, and then he adjusts himself when he realizes that he's on camera. And then, of course, when they took the training, all of the Black people showed up, and the gentleman who wrote, the white man who rolled his eyes didn't show up to the training. And so what message does that send? His answer was, oh, I was just reacting to us having another training that I don't want to have time for. But this training is a little different. This is not teaching you how to fill out a form or how to enter your time card, sir, or to keep your security clearance. No, this is a training that's going to talk about some things that might seem a little prickly and uncomfortable for you. And it's something that we have to do. And so my heart flare is to really call to the carpet the lack of humanity that you might encounter as you navigate your life, whether it be digitally or over the telephone. And I say start with your personal network and then let it grow from there.
Oh my gosh, beautifully said. I so honor you. I so just give it a moment. I feel like taking a moment, I think we should just do this right now, is taking a moment just for, my heart goes out. It's like all Black Lives Matter, but anybody suffering, and just everyone listening to really tune into your heart and see how you can be a support and ally. And I love what you said about really planting the seeds and watering humanity. And it starts, to me, it starts with Black Lives Matter. It does. It really does. We have a long, long way to go, but I love what you said. It's just one brick at a time. And then I pray momentum shifts in and we start having a massive shift. We need it. I pray I see it in my days that I'm alive here.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for who you are. And talk about vessel. You're just a taller vessel. A little bit of a taller, bigger vessel than I am. You're like my blanket vessel, but thank you, because you are such just an incredible light, and I am so grateful you're in my life, and I'm grateful to share you here. We'll have all your information. We're gonna have links, because I really taking action beyond just, iPhone, money, whatever it is, PayPal is great, but it's really how we're being and how we're standing as one and side by side, which I miss being side by side with you, Larry. Maybe
I
we'll
know.
bring our show back, you guys. Maybe
I
we'll bring
know.
it
I
back.
miss it too.
We'll keep you posted. Well, I'm sending you so
Yes.
much love, and I'm so grateful for you.
Thank you so much, Julie. I'm so grateful for you. And I'll send the producers an email and see if we can get something cracking on here for our show.
Okay.
We'll make sure Britt's in there too.
Yes, yes. We need to be next to each other again. Me and my Phoenix,
Yes,
and you
yes.
and I. Yes.
Yes, indeed.
Awesome. Mwah.
Mwah.